the first will be last and the last will be first. What an expression on the part of Jesus. Very often it does not happen in this world. In this world, first are first and the last are last. But in the logic of Jesus, this is quite different. The last will be first and the first will be last. And that is why on one occasion, when Jesus was sitting with the tax collectors and sinners, the Pharisees and scribes were making a comment against Jesus, saying that, why does he dine with the tax collectors and sinners? Jesus, highlighting his doctrine, he said, the tax collectors and the prostitutes will enter God's kingdom before you enter. So just imagine the logic of Jesus here, because he was speaking about God's kingdom and not an earthly kingdom. Reference to this, we have to learn from the first reading taken from prophet Isaiah. He says, diligently search for the Lord, look for him, seek him, and he may be found. And he warns those wicked people, repent and come back to the Lord, that he may abundantly pardon you. And then the famous, powerful saying of God himself, my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways. My ways and thoughts are higher than your thoughts and your ways. Again, a great understanding to all of us why God's logic is not like the human logic. Now, you might have heard little children playing at home or in a playground. What do you hear very often? Oh, that's not fair. This is not fair. That is not fair. We would like to be fair. In the workplace, very often, we sometimes maybe compare our salaries with those people who get more than us. And what do we say? Oh, that is not fair. I am working hard. I am coming on time. I am experienced. And therefore, I do not get my fair share. God's logic is quite different. And therefore, I try to go back to the New Testament sayings of Jesus. When Jesus was giving those beautiful beatitudes, what did he say? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. If you are poor, you will inherit God's kingdom. Blessed are you when you weep now, there will be a time you will laugh. Blessed are you when you are hungry, you will be satisfied. So, Beatitudes. And then Jesus continues to say, looking at the Pharisees and scribes who were experts in the law of the Lord. They were criticizing left and right, Jesus mingling with all kinds of people. Jesus very clearly said to his disciples and followers, when you pray, do not be like the Pharisees. They babble, they use many words thinking that God will hear them. When you want to pray, go to your room, shut the door and pray to your Father in secret. The Father who sees you in secret will reward you. And then he said, when you give alms, do not sound a trumpet. Let not your left hand know what your right hand has done. Do it secretly. When the Father sees all that you have done in secret, will reward you in secret. And then again he said, when you fast, do not put on long faces, anoint your head with oil, and do it in a secret way, so that the Father who sees you in secret will reward you. Dear friends, what a kind of teaching here. Why this landowner paid the same salary at the end of the day? Now, we all must be wondering, he must be a very rich guy, and therefore he was generous. Of course, God is generous. God has given us different talents. We came into this world different times. What is important, dear friends? It is not the quantity of our output. How do you do it? In your heart, sincerity of heart, openness to the Spirit, generosity, love of neighbor, forgiveness, understanding, compassion, kindness, gentleness. All that matters in God's kingdom. Now, I was trying to make a sense of it through the parables of Jesus. Now, Jesus gave some beautiful parables along with this parable. Once Jesus said, a woman who had lost a coin, and she searches for the coin. She leaves all those coins she had, but she searches for the lost coin. And once she finds the lost coin, she calls her neighbors and has a great feast. And I think that is unfair. Why? Of course, she is happy because she got back the coin, but that the lost coin does not deserve a celebration. She should have put it together with other coins and said, well, what I lost, I got. Then there is also another parable of the lost sheep. The shepherd, leaving the 99, those good ones, in the wilderness, he goes in search of the one lost. And diligently searching for the lost one, he finds it. He puts that lost sheep, when he found it, on his shoulder, comes back home, rejoices, and gives a feast to his neighbors. Again, I consider that's unfair. Why should he rejoice? Because the lost one, he got it back. He should have punished the lost one. Very often, what do? Where did you go? We were searching for you. You deserve a punishment. No, God does not say that. God says we have to rejoice because we got back the lost. And then the parable of the prodigal son. Just imagine the elder one who was at home, who was obedient, who was doing the job offered. He was not in any way hurting the father. But the younger one who went away, asking for the property that belonged to him when the father was alive. He goes to a far land, squanders all his wealth. He comes back, the father rewards him. Wow, what a reward. New sandals, new robe, a ring, and kill the fatted calf. And the elder brother was very angry. But then the father says, this had to happen because this son who was lost has come back. Dear friends, for all of us, in a very concrete way, there is a lesson. You know, what is that lesson? If we consider that we are really sinful and we are unworthy to enter into God's kingdom, maybe you are more worthy than those people who seem to be holy, holy, holy. We never know. And that is why we cannot in any way compare our logic with the logic of God. On our part, what we need to do? We have to stop judging people, what they do, how they live. Please do not judge them. That is not your business. I have repeated it several times here in the church. We cannot judge about the morality and how people live. God alone knows. God will be the judge. And that is why Jesus said, do not judge that you may not be judged. That is why here we find the person who came early in the morning to the vineyard, who worked hard, he grumbled. And God said, why are you grumbling? I am free to do with what I have. Do you envy my generosity? I am free to be generous. But your due is paid. I promised you that I am going to pay you this wage, and I have paid you. It is my generosity even to the person who came last to the vineyard to pay his due, and I will pay whatever I think of paying. You need not judge me, or you need not be envious of my generosity. St. Paul, in his letter to the Philippians very clearly says, for him to live and to die is the same thing. Dear friends, we are all in this world in some way participating in God's kingdom. You know, what is God's kingdom? If we are capable of living our life sincerely with that real, authentic love towards one another, we are already in God's kingdom. That's why St. Paul says, for me to live is Christ, to die is gain. How is that? You know, for us to live is gain, to die is a loss. But St. Paul, to live is Christ, dying is a gain. That means if he lives in this world, it is for the gospel. If he dies, he would be very eager to be with Christ. And that is why for him to live and to die is the same. And that is how we Christians have to live. You know, long back, it was in the life of Saint Therese, Little Therese. We call her Saint Therese of Little Flower. She was in the convent and she was trying to be holier. And one day she had some doubts. You know, she knew about Saint Teresa of Avila, the great mystic, and she asked her spiritual director, how we will enjoy God in the heavens? How is that? You know, I am such a unworthy person, small person. There are mighty, holy, great saints. How is that we are all going to enjoy God's presence in heaven? Will there be a qualitative difference? And the spiritual director answered, well, we will enjoy God in our fullness. And then there was a comparison. And what was the comparison? A big glass and a small glass. So you pour milk or water in the big glass, make it full, it is full. You pour milk or water in a smaller glass, it is full, it is full. The bigger glass has its fullness, the smaller glass adds its fullness. That is how we are going to enjoy God in heaven. Now, in order to enjoy God in heaven, we have to expand our heart here on earth. If we have to enjoy God abundantly, we need to have that generous, good heart here on earth. Now, if we are not capable of expanding that heart, of course, many of us expand our heart, of course, keeping it healthy, you know, running on the treadmill or jogging or doing some exercise, going to the gym, we keep our heart healthy, right? That is what we call strengthening our heart. In the same way, through charitable, good acts of charity and love and forgiveness and compassion, we can exercise our heart so that the heart that we have prepared here on earth will be the same heart that will enjoy God in its fullness. Well, I would like to end this homily with a little nice, beautiful anecdote. You know, there was a construction site, and a curious person went and asked questions to the laborers, workers. So he asked the first one, what are you doing? So he answered, well, sir, I am making a living. I am working hard and I am earning some money, so I would like to live a comfortable life. Then he went to another person and asked, what are you doing? He said, don't you see I am laying bricks here? I am laying bricks. And then he went to the third one and asked, what are you doing? He answered, I am building a cathedral. Different three answers. The first one, I am making a living with my daily work. The second one, I am laying bricks. The third one, I am building a cathedral. So what are you doing? Building a cathedral. Building God's kingdom. Dear friends, that is what this parable means. That is when we live our life with that authentic spirit of Christ himself. Just imagine Christ moving with all kinds of people. There were prostitutes, there were tax collectors, there were Samaritans, there were pagans, there were Romans, Jewish people. That is the Spirit of Christ. If we can open our hearts to all humanity, that is what is needed in this modern world. We do not require a war. We do not require a wall. We do not require nuclear weapons. Dear friends, we need love. If we have love and understanding, this would be the first step towards a heavenly experience. You know, we human beings with all kinds of reasoning and philosophies, sometimes we become so small and miserable. But through this parable we will understand God does not judge according to our actions. God does not reward us for our nuclear weapons. God does not reward us for multiple armies or fights. God rewards us if you have loved your neighbor, as Jesus said, as I have loved you. Therefore, dear friends, looking at this parable, let us try to understand in our family, in our society, in our neighborhood, in our community, wherever we may be, we should have that deep love which we show to one another, and that will reflect God's Spirit in us, and we will be closer to God, as Isaiah says, seek the Lord and you will find Him. Call on Him when He is near. And that should be our attitude today. Let us ask the Lord to give us this grace of understanding, discernment, and heavenly wisdom, that we may be empowered and enriched to become true followers of Christ. God bless you.